Oh, gentlemen, I've been waiting all week for another two segments, not just one. I have no favorites on this podcast.
Right. You're right.
But let's start with the one that goes earlier in the week, Woodraux Wisdom. And just coming off vacation, I in the Keys, which is
Did you go to a nude beach?
so funny enough.
You look
There are none in Key West.
Good.
I guess there's south of there. One of the locals had said,
Good.
or not south of there. Sorry, north of there, because south would be in another country. But
Yeah,
anyway,
and there might be some down there too.
yeah, I overheard a conversation of some folks talking about how their kid wanted to quit the sport he was in, and they didn't know what to do, if they should let him quit or not, which got me to thinking of like, Danny, how many times have you quit in your life at something, if anything?
Ooh.
And if so, I'd like to understand why. If not, we'll adjust.
Yeah, I don't, and this is not in a prideful or super like, man, I'm the best way. But I don't think I really ever quit. It was one of those things though too. My mom and dad, and more so my dad, because he was the one that dealt with sports with me or just whatever I did. That was not really allowed. If you're going to do something, you see it through. That's kind of how he always treated like a sport. So like say, hey, you're playing this sport, you're not quitting. It doesn't matter how good you are. I remember baseball came, and one year I didn't go out, but it wasn't I quit in the season. It was, hey, I'm not playing baseball so I can play soccer next year instead, the soccer tournaments, because they were the same weekends and we just wouldn't have been able to do it. I guess another thing is too, this might be a negative, might be a positive. I don't know. Because of my competitiveness as a human being, and my wife always says this, because people are always like, man, you're good at everything you do. Like, and I'm like, okay, like, I don't know. Like, I try my best, whatever. But she goes, and I go, when we're thinking about it, I was like, yeah, part of the reason I'm pretty good at the things that I do is if I'm not going to be close to the best, I will not do it. I have no interest in doing it. It's just not in my, like, if you ask me to, now, most sports, I feel like I could, because I feel like the gifts I was given, I'm pretty nimble, right? We're pretty good at hand-eye, but there's things that I just don't think I'd probably be good at. So I'm not going to try. If someone said, hey, Danny, you're in high school and you're doing track or whatever, let's try the high jump. I said, I'm not going to compete at that. I have no interest in it if I'm not going to be the best or one of the best. So I think that has something to do with everything that I've also done and went into, is I'm not super interested in doing things I'm not very good at. Now, if there's plenty of skills that I needed to get better at when I played football, so I'd try to get those weaknesses into strengths. But if there's like guys, I'm not gonna go write for a newspaper or a magazine. I suck at writing. I'm not gonna do that. So I think some of it is I'm very comfortable in who I am and what my strengths are, that like I'm not real passionate about things I suck at. You know, like some people, like, and I think it's a journey, but like if I growing up couldn't hit the golf ball, I would have just not done it. I wouldn't have quit mid-round, but I would have just said, nah, I have no interest in that. So I think that's part of the reason probably that I've never quit, is everything that I do, I make sure it's something that I'm gifted at or can possibly succeed or get better at. So I think
can't believe you didn't want to do the high jump. I mean, I competed in the high jump.
Oh, I did early on, like when we'd have track and field days and I'd either get first or second in that. But if we got to high school, I'm not going to win it. I'm not going to compete in it. I'm going to go run the 100 and I'm going to win, or I'm going to place. Like that was my thinking is I have no interest in doing things that I suck at. Like, that's just like me. I'm not going to play chess. I'm just not going to do it. First of all, because it's boring as heck to me. Second of all, because there's a strong possibility I'm going to lose. There's just a strong possibility. So like, why am I going to do it? I'm not quitting. I'm not going to do that. Like, why? Or like, I don't know this, but like, I probably wouldn't be really good in drama club. I don't think I'm a great actor. Don't know it, but don't think I would be.
Or is there any situation where you think quitting is productive?
Oh man. See, it's different because I think some of the people that are listening are adults, right?
Mm-hmm.
I do think there's situations, probably. I don't know this because I had a football job, right? But you maybe stop one job and go on to another. But I don't know if I see that as much as quitting. I see that as maybe going to maybe do something that you're more called to do. I don't so like it's I think if there's something you said you were going to do, let's just not say a job right now. Let's just say you're in a league. Let's just say like, don't quit. Just see it through. Like, you committed to it. Just see it through. Whereas in a job, it's a little bit different. Yeah, I signed a contract, but it's not like usually there's not like an end goal, right? Except maybe in certain sports, but still that's a little different. It's a different realm. Yeah, I guess people could say I quit when I retired, but eventually you have to retire. Like, I hung it up because I was like, the body's not going anymore. But that's the same thing as like, I didn't think I could be as successful as I once was. Or
yeah, you accomplished everything you wanted to accomplish in the game.
So I think it's kind of a messy deal. I don't think there's ever a time where you just flat out quit. For me, like in just different goals, unless now there's a different story too. If you have a job and someone's just treating you incorrectly, like doing things that are unethical, incorrectly, then it's like, let's evaluate that. That makes a little bit more sense to me. And I would say that's more so walking away. Like, that's not if someone's doing unethical things, not giving or paying you what you deserve, like they promise something and next thing you know, it's like they're not doing that. It's like, that's something maybe you end up walking away from if you have another gig. But I was always taught, if you're going to do something, do it. And then if you suck at it or you don't like it, then just move on. Like, decide not to do it anymore. So I think it's a little different with work. Scott, you have any thoughts on that? Like, questions? Like,
yeah, no, I think that's a really good point. I want to go back a little bit. So just to kind of recap, is what's really cool is you're very self-aware of what you're good at, what you're not, right? So a lot of people don't even get to that point of like, these are really my skills. Because in this day and age, people are distracted and don't realize and don't give themselves credit what they're good at, or take the time to really go, what am I really good at? And what's also so aligned with, like, my whole career has been working around, let's say talent, whether it's music business or professional athletes, or, like our friend Jack Riggins, the SEAL, or performance psychiatrists. Like, the reason they're so good at what they do, they're just all into that craft.
Yeah.
but the train wreck of everything else behind that, I'm not saying this is about you, but like, they're not good at a lot of things. Like some wouldn't know how to go to the grocery store. Like they dump everything into their craft. And there's going to be a fire of things that they're leaving out of their life. So that's why you have to have the support staff. Cause it's funny. Like I would be talking to one of the biggest bands in the world and go, "Oh, you don't even know how to do that." I can't even say their names or they'll come after me. Right. Like I was like, you don't even like, that's the easiest thing I've ever, like anybody could do this, but in their minds are like, I don't know how to do it.
Yeah, no, I think it's funny you point out that some people don't even know what their strengths are almost. Like, I don't even know. Well, just for if that's you, number one, if you're like, that's okay, but do a strengths finder test. Do something like, because that's something that I did, I don't know how many years ago. And it's funny because it affirmed like that some stuff I already knew about myself. Like if I were to get a job, like just a standard 9 to 5, I'd probably need to be in sales, right? Just because I'm competitive, I need something, or like I need something to go after, because that's my number one strength is competition. I'm an 8 on the Enneagram. I'm a challenger. I'm someone that yeah, I need that to drive. I need that I need to challenge others probably, but I need stuff to challenge me. And I think that's, you said self-aware, I guess. Yeah, I guess I am now that you say that. And I think the more we're aware of what we can do or what we're good at, I think the better, because those things that you're good at, they pique your interest. The things you're good at pique your interest.
Mm-hmm.
And it's easy to keep going. See, like some people are in a job, they're like, I don't love it. Well, you might be in a job that like, that's not your strengths.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay for now. Now, I'm not saying quit. And now if you can find a job and then you walk away from it and you have a job lined up, do that. If it's something that you can still afford to pay for your family and yada, yada, yada. But I think that's where, like work, and if you want to have fun working, loving what you're doing, it's kind of like, well, you love what you do because you're practicing and exercising those strengths or like strengths in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Because and you do have to like try to get your weak, like the things you're weak at or not as good at, stronger. It's like, oh, so I need to start working at not being competitive? I don't believe so. I don't like, but there's strengths within or there's weaknesses within the strengths that you do. Yeah. Try to sharpen those, try to get those better, because you're not going to change you completely as a person. Like if you're someone that has a lot of apathy, I don't know if you want to go, like, stick with it. Like, yeah, like let's not go the other way and have no apathy, you know? Like,
I think people need to separate these things that they were told and groomed while they were being raised, and you know, of course, as a parent, every parent should tell their kids like, you're never going to quit. But
I tell my kids that.
Yeah, as an adult though, you have to understand that all those key things, phrases that you were taught don't fully apply when you're an adult. I mean,
right.
for example, when I was a kid, I was raised in the Catholic Church, and one day I left the Catholic Church and I went to a Christian church and discovered that was better for me. I aligned better with a Christian church. So I didn't quit on the Catholic Church. I felt like I was upgrading my faith.
Well, and the thing is, you're going to church.
Yeah.
Still, it's like whatever, and you're still learning about God.
Yeah. So in work, if you're in a situation that you don't feel is right for you, or that you're just not passionate about. I was not passionate about the teachings of the Catholic Church, but when I went to a Christian church, I felt the passion. It's like, oh, easy peasy. Because that's something that is important to me, something that I'm passionate about and I can feel every Sunday and Wednesday on Bible study and youth group. And I feel that connection. So yeah, I'm not quitting on the Catholic Church. I'm just committing to, my passions.
Yeah. Well, and in your case, it was just better for you.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that it's better for, but it was better for you.
Yeah. So if you're in a job, any of you listeners out there, if you're in a job that you're, unhappy about, and you can't change the situation, you can't make the situation at your current state better. Like really, am I going to change the Catholic Church? Nobody's able to change the Catholic Church. So guess what? I go find a church that aligned with what I believed in. If you're at a job that you can't change, go find a better one. You aren't quitting. You're making yourself better.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, probably get that job before you quit, or before you given your 2 weeks notice. I think.
Yeah.
I think that might be smart, but to go to something that you love, I don't think is always a bad thing.
No, and not at all. But once again, it all starts with self-awareness. And, as you get older and as you have kids, that making that jump from a job, I have so many people that are my age that are, I only have this many more years till I get this pension or this, but I'm miserable. Right. So like what I tell them is, number one, like you have to figure out what your purpose is, what your skills are, and what you're passionate about. And that doesn't mean quit your job, but just start working on those. Just start digging that out. And then, try to carve out your own path and figure out what that is. And maybe eventually you can go to part-time or quit that job and make that jump. But yeah, the whole do what you love what you do, or, go live in a van. That's stupid. None of that is true. Dumbest. It's all fake news. You have to put in some time and you have to know you're good at it.
Go live in a van down by the river, go hang out down there.
Well, I think there's a lot of people in our generation of millennials and the generations after that are, sitting here thinking that the whole world is set up for us. Right. And there's a big difference between a job and a career. And there is a difference, but your career could also be a bunch of jobs.
Yeah. That's a really good point.
Your career could just be, you're really good at working hard on different jobs.
Yeah.
And who cares?
And that's okay. That's okay. You don't need to be super passionate and put on a suit and tie and have a briefcase and go to this like perfect thing. It's okay to work, to just straight work.
Mm-hmm.
Go work in the trades, be a farmer, be a grinder in construction or whatever. Having jobs, because people
grinder.
You
don't mean like grinding dancing, though.
No. I mean just
grinding at construction sites.
Yeah, people are.
Okay.
People use the term job as a negative, like, oh, this is just a job. It's a stepping stone to what my career is got to be. Well, don't force that if you're really good at jobs.
Yeah. Wow.
I'm sorry, guys. I keep thinking of people in hard hats grinding.
And then YMCA.
Village people.
Oh, yeah. They're just YMCA stuff and they're just grinding. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing like just grinding with your coworkers.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That'll get you.
I knew what you were talking about, but in my head, I was like, why am I thinking this at a construction site?
I get it. I think of,
and they're all wearing cutoff
guys a lot.
And they're wearing cutoff jean shorts and stuff.
And shorts. Don't quit your jobs, people. Figure out who the hell you are, what you're good at.
Yeah. Agreed. Good question.
That was I love that. I love these conversations. They always just kind of start and you're like, I don't know what's going on. And then they just go.
It's fun listening to those questions, and then we don't know where we're going, and next thing you know, we're like, that's good. Now let's get the kids around the rug.
Come on, kids.
Can we change Gabe's name, or we gonna still use Gabe?
No, it's still Gabe.
Okay, fair. That's fair.
Yeah, oh, I see him. Get in here,
Yeah,
Gabe.
I'm just
Get
not
in
gonna
here,
talk,
Gabe.
talk crap about Gabe's dad anymore.
Yeah, never talk about Gabriel Scott Pat.
I
Gabriel,
know Gabe's dad, and I'm a
hey,
little scared of him now. So
hey,
stay away from that.
it's crazy that his name's Gabriel Scott Papik.
It's Gabriel King Papik. Come on now.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. Let's pretend it's Gabriel Scott.
Fair.
Because, or no. Sorry. It's Gabriel King. You're Gabriel Scott. It's just you go by Scott, and he goes by Gabe.
Fair.
It's a good name. It's a great name.
Gather around, kids. Gabe, I can get over here. Give me the book.
Get over here, Gabe.
Give me the book. I had basketball practice late last night, so my body hurts. I'm staying right in this fucking chair. Okay, so I don't know why I do this. I want to try to align with the Woodraux Wisdom. I guess maybe just more so of trying to help in the same realm of things. So I want to stay on the quitting topic. And when I believe it's okay to quit, a lot of you listeners have heard me make reference to my parents sucking, being awful.
And by the way, kids, don't go home and just say that to your parents.
You can't say that until you're an adult.
Yeah.
When you
Scott.
when you can fight in wars, then you can say your parents suck.
Fair.
Yeah, and I'm old enough to fight in wars. Haven't fought in any.
Just to be fair, they wouldn't allow you to with all your ailments.
Yeah, true. I'm sure I have psychological issues that I don't even know about.
I think we all know about them. You almost killed one of your coaches. So, yeah, that too.
Yeah, well, it was necessary. So yeah, family situation got tough. I'll just kind of dive in. I won't get into all of the minutia of it, but kind of talk about why quitting that particular relationship was beneficial for my family. I was really, really close with my parents all the way up until about, 27, 28 years old. Outside of my wife, they were my go-to people. Any situation that I had come up, I would say to myself, how would my dad do this? And if ever I had questions about anything, I would just call him and he would always be there. Well, fast forward a lot of years later, I found almost $500,000 had been drained from my accounts, and my dad had been cheating on my mom, then physically assaulted my mom, got put in jail. Then I took over supporting my mom to get her through that difficult time, and then she started in on drugs and alcohol, and I had 2 young boys at the time, and I told her, I said, look, I get it. I get the hand that was dealt to you in life is really difficult. So I'm going to give you a little bit of time here, but you need to start pulling yourself up here by your bootstraps and get things under control. Because when I come home in the off season, I want to be able to bring my wife and kids over and see you and hang out and have our relationship. So let's just keep on growing. And she chose to go the other way. And when so again, those situations there, people say there's nothing more important than family, and that is true. but you also have to know what situations are good for you and bad for you. And I don't believe you need to live in chaos and essentially a version of hell just because of the tag of family. Now, a lot of times, you know, you don't give up on family, you don't bail on family, but and it kind of sounds like I gave up on my family, but mind you, there was a lot of years of chances of trying to pull my family out of the abyss, and things got screwy in my own life because of it. I started being destructive in my own life, in my own marriage. I wasn't being a good father, and I have a decision to make. Like, what are the most important things to me? And it's my wife and my kids. And if my other family is getting in the way of my wife and my kids, I believe in that time it's okay. It's okay to go, that isn't good for me. I'm done with that. Because I wasn't going to risk my relationship with my wife. I wasn't going to risk the relationship with my kids because my mom and dad couldn't handle their shit. So I decided to fix that. And yeah, so haven't talked to my dad in 8 years and mom in, I don't know, 7 years or so. I don't even know why I'm looking at my phone like I know the exact years, but been a long ass time. Yeah, eight years for my dad. Almost to the day. And yeah, about 7 years for my mom. So,
And I think, and it's I mean, shoot, it's obviously a sucky deal, but something you had to make a decision for. And I mean, the thing that is cool though too is I think I'm just thinking of my life, and I'm thinking of you said family, the word family, and it's like you can get that even from people that are not blood, right? Like I'd consider you like my brother. I'd consider
100%.
you, Scott, my brother. You know what I mean? Like and I'm super thankful for that because there are people just like you in life that they don't have a relationship. Now, maybe not with both, maybe with both, but they don't have a relationship with their dad at all. Or they don't have a relationship with their mom at all, or they may not have a relationship with their siblings at all, whatever it may be. And I think that's what's kind of cool. That's not kind of like, that's not like exciting. But just with people in general and how someone that's not blood can be family. I mean, I see that in my brother's kids who are adopted. Like they're not blood, but I'll tell you what, they're family, they're Woodheads, you know? And I mean, it's a different scenario, but I mean, it doesn't mean you have to be blood to be family.
Mm-hmm.
Like I would jump in front of anything for my two nephews, you know what I mean? And it doesn't have to be that. And hopefully people come into people's lives that don't have that and form a sense of family.
Yeah. I mean, we aren't short on family over here. I mean, we got a lot of people that love and care for us and spoil the hell out of our kids. And you know, my in-law family is frustrating as all get out, but you know what? They're there. They're supportive.
Still family.
They're loving. It just so happens that it was my family that turned out to be the bags of shit. And it's you know, the reason why there's a gun somewhere around me a lot of times when I'm working on the farm, just in case a particular someone drives up the driveway. It's just a situation that I'm in. And you know, it's not easy for me. It's not easy for anybody. I know it's not easy on my wife to have the situation we're in with my family. But I'm handling it like this because I believe it's the best way for me to go through it. I know if you talk to psychiatrists, they would say purposefully ending your relationship with your parents is one of the most destructive things you can do. But I disagree on that point because it would be a lot more destructive if they were in our lives. And it would be more destructive for my wife. It would be more destructive for my children. So if things have to be difficult for me to save my wife and kids from pain, yeah, bring it on. Bring on all the pain. I'm all here for that. So again, to stay in line with the quitting situation, sometimes it's okay to quit, and it's really hard. We've been taught our whole lives you never give up on anything, but if something is bad for you, if it's poison, if it's not aligning with your own values in your family, it's okay to change things, even though it's hard.
You know what would be, because I think a lot of people in that situation, and I mean, obviously, Matt, when you're telling that story, like you can hear the pain in your voice. Like, this is something you just don't get over. Like, I can hear it, and I appreciate the vulnerability and telling us. I didn't know a lot of that, so it's the first time I'm hearing that. Also, that addiction thing is just a fucking devil, man. Like, you can't talk sense into anyone, and it's going to be a super sad day for your mom and dad one day. I mean, it's just going to be a really, really bad day. But yeah, you just, for some reason, and we all have I've had the addiction problem within my family too, where it never ends well, ever. Like, it's just the one thing I've never seen that ends well. And I know people do get clean, and, good for them. But, like you said, it's, you have to take a look at everything and then walk away. Like, what advice would you give someone when it's such, like, how did you, how did you come to Jesus where you're like, okay, I have to make this decision and I have to do this. And I believe you are doing the right thing too.
Well, the situation between my mom and my dad were two very, very different things. The situation that my dad put me in was, to go a little bit more in depth, was my dad made it brutally clear that he did not like my wife. He did not trust my wife. He felt like she was coming in between the family, which, by the way, that's supposed to fucking happen. All right. When you get married, that woman becomes your most important world right there. So that's supposed to happen. But I always found it strange. Like, I couldn't figure out why he didn't like her and didn't trust her and whatever else. And well, then it became clear when I found out he was stealing a lot of money from me, and she had called it out at every turn. And she said, look, I don't care what you want to do. You want to give your family money, give them money. But I just don't want you to get taken advantage of, even though they are your parents. Don't let them steal from you and tell you it's for something else. If you want to give it to them, then just give it to them. And that was it. And I would tell her all the time. I said, no, you're wrong. It isn't happening like that. Well, it turns out she was right every single time. And and that's why my dad didn't like her. Well, on the day that he attacked my mom and then he went to jail, the situation I was in Chicago getting my shoulder repaired, and my wife and kids were back here in Nebraska on the farm. And I had just taken the guns out of my parents' house because I don't know if you call it a premonition or whatever you want to call it. But right before I left to go to Chicago to have my operation done, I just went up there and I took all the guns and came down here to the farm and put them in our safe. And when he went and attacked my mom, I knew he was out of his mind right then. And I just talked to him on the phone the night before. So he knew I was in Chicago, away from my wife and kids. And the person he hated more than anybody was now alone, unprotected. And he knew all the guns were there. So he put me in a position where I was afraid for my family's life. So that day, my relationship ended. That second, it was done. Because that man wasn't my father anymore. If you, a father's not supposed to do that. Unfortunately, I know it happens, and it doesn't make it okay. But as a father, you should never bring into question what you're capable of doing in an awful way. So that situation, Scott, I don't think really applies to your question. It would be like more so for my mom's situation. She was medicating herself to get through the pain of her 30 plus years of marriage being over. She was, a stay-at-home mom the entire time of her being married. So she has no career, no money, no husband, and her son is now financially supporting her. There's a lot of bad shit going on in her life. And she chose to dull that pain with drugs and alcohol. And look, I completely understand that. I mean, shit, I still do destructive things in my life to dull the pain, not only the pain of football, but the pain of this situation. I choose to do destructive things in my life to just make myself not hurt quite as bad. And but I told her, you have to, I understand I'm going to let you live in that for a while because you believe you need that, but eventually you're going to have to pick yourself up, and you're going to have to make changes in your life and grow as a person, and you can do it. I know you can. And unfortunately, she got so destructive in her life that it wouldn't have been a good decision as a parent myself to put my children in that situation, to see her like that. Wouldn't be good for her, wouldn't be good for me, wouldn't be good for the kids for sure. And there was other things that happened within there, but I guess ultimately, to answer your question, Scott, the addiction, dealing with substance abuse, it happens far too often in this world, and it is some of the most disgusting stuff to see and to deal with, because these people that you love are literally destroying themselves and are out of their minds, and they can't even see it. Mm-mm. And all you want for them is to get better and, to be who they used to be. And you can see it for them. Everybody else can see it. Everybody else on the planet can see it, but they can't see it. And unfortunately, in a lot of cases, they're never going to be able to see it. And that's what I realized with my mom, is once she started down that path, I mean, the only thing left for me to do would be to rope her up one day and go drop her off at a facility, which I don't even think they allow you to do that, because you're supposed to march in there on your own behalf and check yourself in.
I thought you were talking about the rope.
No, you aren't. I don't think you're allowed to take somebody to a facility against their will. Yeah. But with yeah, just seeing that stuff happen is really hard. And if it's to a point where it is being destructive to your life and your family, no, it's okay to make a change. Doesn't mean you love your family member less. It's just you have to do what's right for you and your family. And I told her, I said, look, that when you fix things, all you have to do is these things, and I'm here waiting. I'm waiting for these things to happen so we can be a family again. And yeah, that was the last conversation I had with her, when I told her, as long as you do these things, I'm back and we're together again. And she went the other way. So be it. I went the other way. But I'll be here. I'll be here if she ever decides.
Yeah, I was going to say, is that something
things.
Yeah, like she could still decide to do those things.
Yeah. And look, again, this is just what my situation is.
Yeah.
But I think it's okay. Now it's really hard. It's hard on me to know that I put this ultimatum up that she's probably never ever gonna reach. But if she reaches it, that's the absolute bare minimum of like existing in this world. Like, you just can't be a deadbeat drunk druggie and be the grandma to my kids and be my mom. You can't do it.
I think the ultimate thing is, like, with everything that you've said, it's more so out of protection for your wife and your children.
Yeah, 100%.
And I mean,
and now I'm bearing the brunt of this, emotionally, because I've cut both my parents out of my life.
Right.
And that's not an easy thing to do when my parents were my whole life up until I got married. And they were still a very important part of my life for another 5 years.
Yeah.
After I got married. And then everything got put on its head. So I'm constantly going to be living in that shit, but I'm saving my wife and kids from living in it too.
Is that something you deal with often or not? Like, thinking about that or not?
Yeah, I think about it
all the time, right?
Yeah. Almost every day. And if it's not, I mean, multiple times a day, it just depends. But yeah, it's tough. It's tough a lot of times. And I don't wish it upon anyone. I hope nobody ever has to go through it. But unfortunately, I know a lot of other people are going through it. And I think, to kind of wrap up the segment here, there are certain situations where it's okay to change the situation in your own life, to make your own life better, or to save people you love from hardcore shit. And don't let the tag of family be the thing that keeps you from saving your family, your other family.
Good. Deep. Emotions, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. Wow.
All right. Well, now shifting gears a little bit. We got our favorite SEAL, our favorite aspiring golfer, our favorite radio show host, our favorite friend, the Commander Jack Riggins, to come on the show and talk a little bit about, man, we were thinking about it. I had a buddy reach out and say, man, like, I loved the whole insight of Afghanistan. Not that he was over there, but insight of the one and only Jack Riggins on what the heck is going on with our world right now, Jack. Like, if there's a guy that's going to have an opinion that we respect, it's yours. We need to know, even like I was talking to Slaw and Scott about this a little bit earlier, and I'm not saying your radio show, but I'm getting to the point in the last 2 years when I've started to pay attention a little bit more to just kind of news. And over the last 2 years, I feel like everything that the news said, the opposite was actually the outcome. So now, where do I go from here with what's going on in the world? Because I actually, do I flip a coin? Do I see what sticks to the wall? Just put a bunch of sticky notes, put something on it, and see what sticks to the wall? Or like, what do you think of what's going on right now?
Well, thanks for having me, Mr. Woodhead and Mr.
I like it when you address us as Mr. It just feels pretty cool. It's like I'm a teacher.
Yeah, I think I thought at first you had a beanie on too, so I was like, okay, I've got the right gear on, running around in my life, and then I realized you've got this
workout headband,
like Vince Neil thing going on.
Bro, it's one of those things. Like I'm a sweater.
Yeah, no, I get you.
And I need something.
Yeah, and as always, the scientist is a scientist. He's looking sharp this morning.
That's so true.
Just let me a couple more drinks of coffee here, and I'll be ready to go. I don't know if we're supposed to acknowledge the Scott Papik, producer there in the background, but I'll say hello to him as well.
Yeah, dad of Gabe.
Man.
Dad of
My
Gabe.
man.
Yeah. He's rocking a nice hat.
He is.
Colorado.
Yeah, he's got one of those Colorado ones you get at the airport where they have just an awesome marketing scheme going on at Denver International Airport. And you're like, dude, I'm buying a bunch of Colorado stuff. And obviously they're hoping you're going to take some drugs home with you too. But in the end of the day,
that's Colorado.
I'm flying through DIA a lot. And I'm like, one, I'm still trying to find that underground base at Denver International Airport. Number two, I marvel at the marketing the state of Colorado has for their gear.
And then the world takes it because it is kind of like, it's kind of cool.
It's one of my most favorite airport. It probably is my most favorite airport in America. I think it's beautiful. I mean, yeah, the swag that they got in that place. It's just top tier, and you got people walking around in cowboy hats and boots. I'm like, gosh, I bet they have like a lasso in their backpack or something.
Yeah, it's an interesting place, and
the secretive.
I'll certainly get to your question, but I mean, I think our conversation is just describing the world is in complete chaos right now, and Denver
it's a lot like my hair right now.
Shows that the scientist in you, Matt, I could see it. Like, I love the structure. It's world class. Still questioning why it's like 2 hours away from the city. But Colorado's expanding. They're doing 100-year plans there in Denver, I guess. So that's probably smart as the city builds east towards it, and they really can't build up onto the mountains, right?
Old Lincoln, Nebraska doesn't quite follow the 100-year plan. I think
no. We're on a lot slower timeline, but
like
I do enjoy people watching. It's my favorite airport to people watch because you're right. I get the Western frontier. I literally get cowboys, pioneers, like they're straight charging west. I certainly get hippie culture.
I was just going to say there's hippie culture there too.
I get new gen Colorado culture. And you get a nice influx of something in between. There's some San Francisco element to that airport. And then there's just a bunch of us regular Americans who, opposed to carrying our lassos in our backpacks. We'd carry guns in the airport if they'd let us, but they don't let us do that anymore. Unfortunately, we're still all masked up when we're going to the airport. And that really
gracious to Pete.
Tremendously. Like, it's such a deal, right? If you want to fly and travel and have a normal life, you must do this. So every time I get on a flight, which I'm not flying as much now because of these protocols, I just start obsessing on the aircraft about America and constitutional values and America which you have me on the show for, and our foreign policies and our quote unquote American power. So let's just start there real quick. Let me say this. We are all in our 30s and 40s. And the last that we could go back to historically, although we wouldn't remember much of it, but we hear
50s.
about it.
I was just going to say 50. Sorry. I didn't want to, but let's include
Oh,
Scott.
Well, Scott, you're a hell
Scott
of a-
remembers.
Scott, you're a good-looking 50-year-old.
Well, and his heart's in his 40s. His heart's in his 40s.
You guys keep me young, man.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, and let's be honest, you got young kids, so age is in your mind. You're right in the flow. You might be the youngest of us all, really.
My body's the youngest, I can tell you that.
For sure.
Well, that's true, and you're doing a lot of good things. I wish I had your maintenance program that you do. But here's what I was going to say. We are at an all-time, I think in my opinion, I can only historically read about the Jimmy Carter era, where America was coming out of Vietnam and the military was smoking more marijuana and crap than shooting their guns, and morale was really low historically. And they began to turn that around in the late 70s. And then Jimmy Carter came to office, and we all know about the economic crisis. We know about the weak foreign policy, which led to all kinds of troubles overseas, specifically in Iran. That's kind of the thing that people point to the most. I believe we're well past that now in the Biden administration, and State of the Union is tonight, I think.
Yeah, I heard
or
that.
this week.
Yes, tonight. Yeah.
And in 1 year, we have managed to squander about 40 years of gains, to include the last 4 or 5 years, things of getting out of wars, energy independence, strong foreign policy, and really making allies and other people pay their dues with regard to their own defense when you're talking the treaties with NATO and some of the things. So we went from a really strong hand in poker to, hey, here's all our cards.
A 2 and a 7.
Yeah, and
Offsuit.
not only that, but maybe falling asleep at the poker table. And so that leads us to really a pretty predictable thing for people that watch the national actors, if you will, the big ones anyway, play out. They're going to make moves. It's just that simple. And when governments are clicking and they're taking their oath of office serious, and they're working not only for the betterment of, say, the American people, but other allies, you tend to have slow change in the world. You're going to have change. Okay. We got to accept that, but you're going to have slow change. So what we're seeing is, at least in our lifetime, going back to what we've seen, it's unprecedented. What scares me is the pace of it. The pace that the world could go from what it was 2.5 years ago. And I think you'd be stupid to say, oh, geez, that's just crazy that we had COVID. And then in America, we had civil unrest with CRT and wokeism. And at least where I'm at here, health standards in schools. And then, masking. I think you'd be crazy to think that these are all a bunch of individual events that just happened to hit in the last 3 years, followed by a major superpower invading, a place the size of Texas. So this pace of change, adjustment, is very scary. And is it scary to you and me and people like in the Midwest of the United States? Not necessarily that world part yet, but it should be something that you pay a huge piece of your attention to, because I'm going to tell you, this wouldn't be the first administration or president that somehow figured a way to get us into a conflict to save their own ratings. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying you can't in human dynamics and leadership and government stuff, you can't, somebody that's willing to go all the way to bat to break constitutional rights with, say, masking and vaxxing, you can't put it past them to strategically misstep on the world stage and make a problem that right now is in Eastern Europe a world problem, right? And that would be catastrophic. And I pray that doesn't happen, obviously.
Yeah, I was afraid stuff like that was maybe.
More importantly, why am I on the wait list for the Nebraska 4-ball? This is
crippling.
It's only 20. I don't want to be.
That bothers me.
This place.
Hey, so what do you like? Because obviously Slaw and me, well, Scott's probably a genius at this. Me and Slaw aren't, even though sometimes we like to act like we are. So like what do we even, I can't even talk because of it all. But obviously some of the things you said I was kind of afraid that what you were thinking. So where is our country? Obviously, where does our country go? But like what's even going to be talked about at the State of the Union? You think what like I don't like, where do you, is it addressed? Is it
Well, yeah, it's a great question.
I see. Like the question was barely even a question because I was just I sounded like I didn't know what I was talking about because I'm kind of like, what's going on?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, obviously you alluded to it when you introduced me. I mean, I've been on radio now for a year and I cover, I mainly cover local politics.
But you know what's going on still.
But I do, you have to kind of look nationally and internationally. So I am paying attention to it a lot more than I ever have in my life. And so while I don't know exactly what will be said in the State of the Union, I have been able to pick up on a pattern that I think will generally cover it, or be my guess here. And I'll give it breaking to your audience on the Out of Nowhere podcast.
I love that.
Even though this will probably air after the State of the Union.
Yeah, let's not. But we're gonna pretend.
Yeah,
right?
they know when you tape.
You want it before? Do you want it before or after?
No.
I think this should come out as quickly as possible.
As quickly as you can, Scott.
All right, we'll do it today.
So
yeah.
So here's the thing I've noticed. The difference between, so you guys are familiar with different political sections and different things.
Yeah,
so what's really interesting, there's a lot of talk right now on, okay, we got conservatives, we got liberals. Okay, let's break that down. We go Republicans, we go Democrats. Well, this new phenomena of, extreme right and extreme left. Okay, so you often hear a Democrat say, those aren't the Democrats that, I grew up with, right? So they're kind of like, those are my wacko group of people that I somewhat don't know why I identify with, but I identify with because they're popular right now. And we're talking your extreme AOCs, Ulamala, whatever, Omar, and then of course you look at San Francisco policies, and right here in Lincoln, Nebraska, we have that going on as well. So it's interesting because I think that this president, Joe Biden, placated to that group as this campaign got going, more so than that group of the far left Democrat. So it'd be the equivalent, right? So let's go back this way. It'd be the equivalent of me or you. I'm a conservative, I can say that I went and rounded up all the KKK members around the area and said, vote for me, right?
Yeah,
I went as far nuts as I could go. And I don't even know if KKK people are, conservative, but I mean, they're cast in that light. And all of a sudden,
or white supremacists.
White supremacists. That's what I mean. Most people associate that in media with conservative America.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden, in the end of the day, he's going to have to do what he's been doing, which is to cheerlead these policies that he's done that almost universally the American public and many people, even in media who have been behind him, have said, what are you doing? I mean, they're almost outright rebelling. And I'm talking in the left side of things. Okay. But nonetheless, he still cheerleads like this great success. So I expect him to paint a narrative like a Van Gogh of all these successful things he's done in a year. And I'm not sure what those are. I just know to expect this great painting of it. I expect that to be really hailed by the extreme left. And then I expect him to blame in some way, shape, or form the former president for things going on internationally. Okay. Because he's got to kind of set the stage for, that guy, and, how nobody likes that, even though 50% of Americans clearly do.
Right. And
then have this great speech about how he's going to save everybody. Right. So he's going to cheerlead whatever the heck he's done for our country, which everybody pretty much is against, then he's going to blame somebody, probably former president administrations, for this world thing. And then he's going to set the stage for how he's going to save everybody. Right. And I want every one of your listeners to realize, if you draw a line from the start of the State of the Union to the end, it'll all be bullshit. It'll all be bullshit. Now, whether you want to say lying, whether you want to say placating, wordsmithing, it'll be BS. And one thing I can guarantee you that will be in there is there will be a distinct moment, because Joe Biden can't say anything on the world stage when he goes to address it that isn't about how tough he is and how he's the only one that can save everybody. And he won't just be talking to Americans. He'll be talking to the world because of the crisis in Ukraine. So at some stage, he's going to go with the greatness he's done in a year. He's going to blame somebody, probably former administration, for the world events. And then he's going to do the pitch as to how he's going to save everybody. And in that pitch will be the Tom Cruise aviator sunglasses, although he won't put them on unless one of his attendants tells him to. And he'll read on the thing about how Joe Biden is a tough guy and he's the right guy to get the world out of this mess. And that'll be the State of the Union.
Is this because I'll be honest, I haven't really paid attention to, which is probably not a great thing, but like to stuff like this at this magnitude, like I'm saying, I've paid attention more, right? After the last couple years, once everything has, just everything that's been going on in our country and world, like, is that just the status quo for State of the Unions? Like, is that how, like, past presidents, or is it just kind of like, I don't know, that, you know what I'm saying? Because this is the first time I've really been paying close attention. And it's crazy, like, to me, you saying like, well, he'll probably blame the past for the world stage. And it's like, well, that didn't happen during that.
Well, he may,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'm just like, I don't know.
Yeah, that's the State of the Union generally is supposed to be what it is, the State of the Union. So certainly there's going to be some cheerleading for things the administration has done,
which is
some thank yous, little motivational change.
And they all stand up and clap and stuff.
Yeah. So, that's kind of, there's a show part of it. But at the same time, it also is to lay out challenges. So it is a way to communicate to the people and the members of the Senate and the Congress and the military and honestly, the Supreme Court, everybody, here are some challenges as the senior executive, see it. And, we need to tackle these, right? So there's a little foreshadowing And then there's, of course, if there's international things that are of major importance, updates on that, as well as, again, how we are going to, or what our vision is to handle that. So there's always an element to that. I think the difference here is that there is nothing concrete that this administration has done that the vast majority of people can go, that's good. I mean, do you think there's a way he can spin the Afghanistan pullout? No. Do you think there's a way he can spin weak foreign policy? How about this one? How can he spin? And thank God, that the press isn't just bulldogs like they used to be. How does he spin that we are buying oil from Russia right now? How does he spin the fact that the United States is funding the Russians who are in an active war of aggression? And we're not only doing it, we're buying oil at a rate that we have 2 times the capacity to have ourselves. I mean, this isn't spin doctor stuff. That's what's so amazing. These are just simple facts. We went from energy independence, which means our oil prices stay low in our country, good for the American people, creates jobs, good for the American people. And we get to export, which means money comes into America, to taking jobs away from Americans, having our daily lives affected by prices, giving up the power and money coming into America, and giving money out to, quite frankly, our first or second enemy.
So this is what's weird to me.
Yes, Danny, you have your hand
up. I'm thinking, like, because what was it, 350 million they're putting into Ukraine, or they're talking about doing, right, Scott? Was that what you said? Yeah.
Oh, they're giving them money
and
arms.
Yeah.
I thought it was like, I think I saw something, like, don't quote me on it, but it's somewhere like 350
Let's quote him. But
my name is Matt Slauson.
In my head, I'm like, it's like, oh crap, we're giving them both money then? I know it's not for, but you're talking about
yes,
we're paying them for all that, and we don't even need all that. Quite what you're saying.
Well, yes. So by giving up,
like, what's going on?
Keystone Pipeline and allowing Russia to be a major supplier, the American people,
we're funding
Russia.
That's what I'm saying.
Now, the American people, through our money of support and relief, are paying Ukraine. Yes. So we are, as taxpayers, very simply, we are funding both sides right now.
That makes sense.
Funding Ukraine's fight, and we're funding Russia's advancement on Ukraine.
So technically, good we're just situation. Like, here's money, guys. Both you guys.
Good situation.
Right. So I know your audience likes some of this. So again, I'm a big fan right now, given the weakened, not broke, but weakened state of America, both internally, externally, and really the DC
internally.
Yeah. Traditionally, we would look from a strategic planning across 4 lines, and when we're doing international relations, and the acronym is DIME in the military. And so it's diplomatic, informational, military, and economic. So these are your 4 kind of power broker things you can do amongst nations. So I think rightfully so. I would hate to see our military engaged in anything right now. So that power, that influencer is kind of off the table.
Right.
So you go to diplomatic. Okay. We talked about it. You try to broker things. Informational. Okay. There's a lot of things with media and different things you can do. And
that's a war in itself.
If you read up on this crisis, there were some good things the Biden administration did early, about 3 weeks ago, with information and trying to shape that battle space, releasing some classified stuff that made it look like Putin was going to invade. And, so they messed up his plans a little bit.
Yeah.
Now, economic, that would be the big one here, right? So, I mean, for months, weeks, all of that economic support, one of which I just mentioned being the oil.
Right.
You could do that right now. Boom. Shut it off. Now there's slower ways that they're trying to do it, right? They're talking about SWIFT with European banks and making it so the Russians can't do things with banks across Europe. But there's a lot of support mechanisms or leverages in that economic thing that we could be doing. And it begs the question, how incompetent is our leadership? And I think that's a fair question for the American people. And Joe Biden clearly, historically, just in the last year, has not been up to the task. I mean, the man can't even secure our southern border. I mean, that's a crisis in and of itself. I mean, most people, if we didn't have all this other stuff going on, right, would be like, what? Think if you live in Southern California, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas right now. Think of what you're going through.
Well, and that's the thing that's interesting to me is it's like that's been going on for a long time. That's not something that just came up too.
Right. I mean, it basically started the minute, he got on the campaign trail, or it reinvigorated. I mean, we're always going to have.
It's invigorated.
And so we've got ourselves tied up in a really bad knot. And that's just, you've got to deal with it for what it is and not cheerlead and not have false narratives. You need to go
to work.
You need to say, maybe masking the whole country and shutting down the economy might save a few lives, but we're going to kill hundreds of thousands of people without jobs and mental health. And so guess what? That's not the better of the two choices. And so I question the competency based on you guys as football guys would say. It's in the tape. It's in the tape. Like,
just watch the film.
Yeah, watch the film. No, coach, I did not do that. I saw it. Look, did you?
It's like a quarterback saying, "Coach, you took me out. I didn't throw 3 picks.
Right.
I did not throw.
Right.
Okay. All right, Sammy, we're going to watch the film. Okay. This right here, when you threw it to the guy in the other jersey, that's 1 interception. Then the other one, that's number 2. And the other one's number 3. That's what you did.
Sammy has got lots of NIL money or sponsors, and they've been over in Russia or China scrubbing the video, digitally replacing, that vid with a catch. And he's like, no, see, coach. So, he goes,
they like photoshopped
for a second. And the coach is like, wait, there was 3 on here. I mean, so there's some of that going on too, right?
It's like, I saw the game. There were 3 picks. Why can't we see it on the film?
Yeah, it's on every stat line, but it's not on the film, right? I mean, there is a level of insanity, not to the point where, again, the whole world's going to end.
No.
But the world dynamic, again, go back to what I said when I came on. It's changing very fast. Like, I don't know. Putin could drop a very, very large bomb in Ukraine just to send a message, right? And that would be very scary to most of the world. The second thing people aren't paying attention to, and why this is really interesting to us military folks, is I don't know. I spent about 12 hours deep diving on this last 2 days, and anything I could find and trying to dig it up. it makes no sense militarily with what Russia has and is assessed to have, capabilities, equipment, manning, their attack plan. It makes no sense given what they've stated their goals are. So that leads you to two conclusions. Either our estimates, Western estimates, which are usually pretty darn good. I mean, we've been watching the Russians for a long time, are so far off, and they're so debilitated and have such stupid military leaders that they botched this entire thing for the first week, because we're about a week into it. And they are not what anybody in the world has thought they are militarily, right? So they're just kind of a large army with crap leadership and crap tactics and no real ability to mass combat forces.
Are you talking about ours?
No, I'm talking about the Russians.
Oh, you're talking about the Russians. No,
the Russians have
gotcha.
conducted the Ukraine operation. A
Gotcha.
third
Yes,
grader throwing little army men on the map would be better. They've
Yeah.
made giant blunders in their attack plan that make no sense for the capability they have. They have not,
which doesn't happen, correct?
which doesn't
Especially
happen
out of
to
a superpower like
the
Russia.
third best military in the world. You know, and an instance would be not attacking command and control nodes, not attacking. The fact they don't have air superiority is mind-boggling. Mind-boggling. I mean, we would have air superiority within a day or two, right? Command and control nodes would be down within the first night. The electric grid, things so that Ukrainians could not communicate and basically not form, you know, mass resistance. None of this has been done, and these are things the Russians have the capability to do. So what my point is their stated goal to the world. Now, again, it could be different. It's not matching up with their military strategy and execution that we've seen thus far.
Is that what like our people are saying, or is that what the media say? I'm asking you. I don't know.
No, that would be
militarily.
What the Pentagon would be saying if
Okay,
they were,
gotcha.
you know,
Gotcha.
beholden to the great leader.
Makes sense.
I mean, it's laughable. It's laughable, their attack plan. I can't stress that enough. That doesn't mean that it's not killing lots of people. That doesn't mean it's not terrible. I'm just saying, you know, from Danny Slaw, you know this. I mean, it would be the same as you guys, you know, being a great running team, right? And all you do the entire game is never run the ball. Everything's fake and throw, but you've thrown 4 picks in the first half, but you stick with it. Okay. I mean, it's laughable.
Yeah.
So that either is one of two conclusions. The Russians are not who we think they are, right? They might have the equipment stuff, but leadership wise, you know, they're a bunch of kindergartners. Okay. Which I don't know that that's a good conclusion. 2, there's something else going on here, and the invasion of Ukraine is not really the invasion of Ukraine. And that's where I think most strategists, certainly me, and most people are leery of these national level games. Is China, of course, wants Taiwan, and we know that. And China wants an expansive network in the Pacific. You know, China is on pace, right, to have domination, much like my brothers in the U.S. Navy, of the Pacific region, right? And in order to dominate the Pacific region, you have to have sea power. You have to have navies. You have to have control of many different island nations or influence on them. And China's been expanding in that space at least a decade. And it seems to always be lost on Americans, the impacts of this game that China is playing. And so we know that China and Russia over the last year have gotten really, really close. And so the fact that Ukraine is kind of a Russian at this moment, half effort, not even half effort, blundered a little bit. Makes you wonder. I hope somebody's paying attention to the other side of the world, right? Because America has basically stretched itself for 50 years across both oceans.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm not expert enough to know what's a bigger impact, you know, Taiwan being under Russian or Chinese control, and now their influence in that region, or Russia retaking, you know, part of the old USSR. But nonetheless, it's a very interesting dynamic. And I think you have to go day by day and watch. But what I can tell you is militarily, the Russians have done terrible. And the resistance the Ukrainians have put up that we know about, or we think we know about, is cool. And it's gallant, and they should fight for it. And it's good to see people fighting for what they believe are their independence. And so, you know, in the end of the day, and then America's funding both sides.
That's what I was like, I'm like, wait, I didn't even think about that.
So, so assuming that it isn't the second scenario you laid out, where there's something else in play. Let's assume it's just the first one, and it truly is just what it appears on its face of Russia is just trying to reform the Soviet Union. If you were in charge, what would you do?
Yeah, great question.
If he was the you're saying like if he was the president.
If he was the president,
Yes.
if he was in charge.
Let's vote for Jack
because you look at you know, last week it came up in Biden's press conference, a reporter asked him about sanctioning SWIFT, and he said no, because the sanctions we are doing are way more severe than sanctioning SWIFT. At the time, I had no idea what SWIFT was. So I did a little research, and it's the Slauson style research. So it's super fast, not very in depth.
It's Swift. It's also Swift.
Yeah, it was Swift. And what I gathered it was the banking system that all the countries in Europe use to essentially like move money to other countries for goods. So then my assumption was, if they sanction SWIFT, it cuts off all money for Russia's oil. And that to me would be the easiest way to snuff out their campaign, because then they won't be able to fund their campaign here. And Biden said, absolutely not. We're not doing it because the sanctions we are doing are more severe. Then I think it was either Friday night or Saturday morning, they decided to flip the script and said, we are sanctioning SWIFT now. And I was like, yes, sweet, awesome. But then Sunday morning came out, all the sanctions on SWIFT are for everything except for oil. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? That is the one thing that you hit. So I'm saying, like, okay, obviously I don't know anything.
But you know almost everything.
So as someone who's a lot more educated in this, what would you do in this scenario if you're the leader?
Yeah, I mean, give yourself credit. You're a big thinking animal, and that's good. That's good. Yeah, before I answer that, you know, SWIFT is an interesting one. I've looked at a lot of expert testimony, your thoughts on it. And one of the things that, you know, everybody's gotten themselves into with that is that, you know, if you cut all of that, the Russian banks are going to feel it first. And one of the reasons that most people are saying that we've backed off of it is that it's true. The Russian banks would feel it first, therefore it would affect them and then affect the Russian government, you know, this trickle down effect. Well, right after that, guess what? It's going to affect all the other banks in the world because the Russians owe interest on their loans to other banks. And so the problem is that then that snowball would come right back at us, okay, because the Russians wouldn't be paying their interests, and then the banks, Western banks, right, would now be affected. And so that's one of the gridlock items going on with SWIFT. So I think that if I'm president and I get to be for this podcast and this podcast only, I think that you have a couple of things that you have to figure out whenever you lead anything. But, even if you lead the free world or America, is you have to figure out who you serve first. Loyalty. Okay. It would be easy for you and I to go, well, I serve Americans. Well, then in almost every decision you make, right, you put that up there first and you go, America first, right? This is who elected me. Here's who I serve. So your decisions would be guided by what's in the best interest of the American people. Okay. And when you go back even before this conflict, where does we are energy independent? Where does offshoring that benefit the American people? These aren't complicated issues. You can make them complicated if you watch a lot of different news channels and listen to a lot of people. But if you believe in Americans and America, and it's your job to serve the interest of the American people, where does going from energy independence to offshoring that benefit the American people? It doesn't. It's not a debatable question. It's where you view the world from question, right? Now, if your loyalty is to a certain sect of Americans, say green energy people or that whole movement, well, then that might appease them. That might be something that is important to them. And so we started this snowball of empowering other nation actors, Russia, China specifically, by decisions like that as one of them, right? By going all in and saying, oh, we're going to get back to the Iran nuclear accords instead of having a hard stance against Iranians. So when you're not American and you're looking in, what they see is weakness, what they see is opportunity, right? And then in their national interest, they're going to act on that. So at the first inklings of us seeing Russian troops mass on the east, right, you should have hammered them with economic freezes, oil, money, all kinds of things. Why? Because it can be done at the stroke of a pen. Essentially, lives are not necessarily lost. They have to adjust, right? Like Russian people, Russian president, they have to adjust to these new economic sanctions immediately. And you do that as like a slap, right? So we have that in our power. And you slap them and you say, wake up. What are you doing? Why are you massing troops, right, on the border? Now, you hit them with economic hard, should have been done months ago, right? That opens diplomatic, go back to what I said, DIME, diplomatic, informational, military, economic. You hit them with economic, opens up diplomatic channels. Your diplomats go over there and say, hey, we'll relieve the sanctions if you pull your troops back to garrison, you know, not on the border of Ukraine and Belarus, or don't go into Belarus, right? Or whatever the countries are, right? And then you play that game, and you might play that game for a week. You might play that game for years. But what you don't have is you don't have an invasion of where we're at and world order all up in arms. Mm-hmm. And so you had that power. Now, the other one is information campaigns that you could have been actively using U.S. government allies as well as media outlets to really paint this, you know, not in the Russians' favor, right? So if you recall, here in our media, it was just kind of like, the Russians have brought 50,000 troops up on the border. They brought 100,000 troops.
Yeah, but they're not going to do anything.
But my point is, governments can leverage that. And so you use that to change the calculus. And so no doubt about it, what we should have done, what I would have done, because I have no love for the Russian government. And again, I don't live in a kumbaya world. The threats, America first. So you got to remember that. the threats to America in rank order. I've said this before on your show and everywhere, and I don't think it's going to change in my lifetime, are China, Russia, and then they can flip-flop the number one slot, right? Yeah. It's like 1A and 1B, and then Iran. That's it, folks. That's it. We have 3 existential enemies to our way of life, to the world order. And it's China. They're on the slow burn, but they're there. Sometimes they bump up. They play more economic than they do military. Russia, again, that's 1 and 2, and they can flip-flop given the year. And then always in the third slot is Iran, which takes us back to the beginning of our lifetime, guys, which is the Jimmy Carter era. Iran, okay? Iran is, you know, the kid brother of stupidity to the, if there's an axis of evil, that's it. Don't throw North Korea in there. North Korea is just a freaking kid puppet that seriously most resembles Team America. They're going to throw and lob some missiles. They do nothing on the world stage. Nothing. They're contained. But we don't seem to want to accept this fact, and some of our leaders don't want to accept this fact. And it's kind of sad. Even here in Lincoln, Nebraska, it kind of drives me nuts at the university I graduated from that we have this giant Chinese outreach. And that's not me being, you know, weird. I'm just saying nothing wrong with international students going, you know, to and fro. But in fact, you have to be careful with those relationships. And so there's huge Chinese influence, you know, right here, even in ag, if you will. And, you know, that should worry people.
Scott, you have anything? I'm just like, I feel like digesting it all.
I could listen to this all day.
It's just fascinating, right? Really is. But
well,
yeah,
here's a good one for you. It kind of tells you how we as the American public right now, as well as our leaders, are thinking about the great game, this game of nations. Russia made like their first incursion or something, and go back to any other time in your lifetime when a nation did that, or like when we rolled into Gulf War I, you know, remember how that just sucked the news cycle? I mean, that is a big deal. A nation without any provocation has just rolled troops into another nation, right? So I can go back to, you know, when Saddam Hussein did it in Kuwait, it never left the news cycle until we went down there and finished it, right? I mean, you think of like 9/11, you know, while it was a small attack, I mean, dominated the news cycle. One of the things that dominated the news cycle that day was John Kerry going around talking about green energy. Like, we have a major invasion of the third largest power into a place the size of Texas.
Yeah, why is that? Why would that be?
And all of a sudden, we want to talk about green energy and how it's related to this or something. That makes no sense. You don't have to be smart. You just have to go, hey, do you think we can put the green energy debates on hold for a second until we figure this out?
I mean, COVID decided to take a break for this.
Yes.
What's COVID? I mean, like,
that's gone. What? Huh?
It's, I saw a meme where it said, gosh, and this is terrible. Like, I don't, but someone said, I wish Putin would have done this 2 years ago to like get rid of COVID. Like, yes, right. We don't want people dying. We don't want, but like, it's making a joke that like no one even has a clue about COVID. And I think it's getting, let's be fair, it's getting closer to election stuff. Like, I mean,
yeah. Well, that'll be another, speaking of the State of the Union, that'll be another victory parade, how he defeated COVID. Without a doubt. But yeah, I mean, like I was saying earlier in the show, I mean, all these kind of world changing events that, you know, traditionally, at least in recorded history, you know, you'd have about one every 10 years. We've had about 5 in 2 years.
Yeah.
And that's crazy. But no, we've blundered this. And listen, I mean, that's kind of par for the course with America right now on a lot of things.
You know, it's funny. I was driving my boys to basketball practice the other day, and I was asking about school. And I asked my oldest, I said, so what are the favorite things that you learn about in school? He said, I really love art, and I love history. I love learning about history. I said, well, Monty, pay attention, because you're living through a whole lot of history right now.
Yeah.
You're living
Yes.
through more history than any one of us ever have.
Dude, we've enjoyed this. We're trying to digest it. Do you guys have any more questions? I'm trying to even think of the question I'm trying to ask, and I don't even know what it is.
No, I just
That's the
just
best part. Is I'm like,
keep
I don't
going
even know
back
how
to
to
what
say
you
it.
said about how Russia has completely made a mess of this because of what their capabilities are, what we know their capabilities to be. We assume their capabilities are. Like, it almost appears that this wouldn't even be able to happen this poorly for them.
Well,
Correct.
yes. And that's something that's like, well, what is that? I mean, they have to have some sort of plans. Like, so like, and then you say all these, and I'm still back on the, when you initially said, oh, COVID, oh, this, oh, that. It's like, do you think these are just random individual things? And I was like, that's just one of the things. And then there's that. And then there's the oil stuff. There's like that. I'm just like, I'm hit. Like, I feel like I've just been a punching bag getting hit back and forth. And I'm thinking all these things, but like, yeah, a lot.
Yeah. It's, back to Slaw, talking about money. You're right. We're living through a very, very historical time and decisions being made and lots of things happening. This pales in comparison. This last 2 years, like it or not, people, this pales in comparison to the global war on terrorism. Pales. The last 2 years, geopolitically, world events, pales in comparison to the fight against terrorism. I hope that we get it. I hope that we get it figured out.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
I think that, I'm like you guys in some ways. There's some things I know and a lot I don't know.
You probably know a lot more than us, though.
Well, but
just the understanding of everything.
We have to watch. I think it's good to just kind of go week by week clips because there is some unprecedented things going on. I'm not saying 2 weeks to slow the curve. I'm just saying you check back in,
mask up, see how this whole situation is going.
But I will say this to the listeners, and this is something that, we can laugh about, we can joke about, but we have to remember there are people that don't want Americans to be Americans, whether you like that or not.
Yeah,
that's just the way the world is. And this has reaffirmed, I guess your pod would be the pod to say it on, but this has reaffirmed we need men. This is why you need healthy men in societies, because other societies will try eventually to come and take what you have. And you need a healthy level of men and their unique capabilities and the aggressive nature of which they can generate. This is often seen in today's world in sport and other entities. And of course, that's not saying you don't need women or other, but you need to have a healthy dose of men for protection, because right now, American society might be at its weakest point on almost all levels.
As Slauson would say, soft, very, including, and you can't discount the collaboration, the synchronization,
of events with three major enemies. And we don't even like to use those terms anymore, which drives me nuts, right? China as a nation is my enemy. Russia as a nation is my enemy. Iran as a nation is my enemy. I didn't say there are people, I didn't say individuals that come from those countries. As a nation, they are trying to crush the West and Western ideals and the Western way of life, and that leads to America. And so we've got to be very careful. We've got to understand elections have consequences, and who we choose to lead and their ideals. And the best I can say is those people better be America first people, because that's who elected them and that's who they lead. So when things get chaotic, you go to simple and you do what's best for your people. If somebody 1,000 years from now comes up with a spaceship and we all kumbaya, then great. But that's not the world we live in right now. The world we live in right now has battle lines, much like football. You can go out to dinner with the guy afterwards to this, but you know, your best friend's on the other side and you're going to try to break his leg. And that's just the way it is. Everybody accepts the game. Speaking of that, I got one question for you guys. Because you guys played with Weddle, correct?
Yeah.
And I saw him all over the NFL playoffs. And I got to be honest, so impressed. So like, there's things I look for in sport, and I look for point of attack. I look for headhunters. Not a guy in the NBA that gives a cheap foul. You know what I mean? But like, I just like those parts of the game. And I have to be honest, I thought the NFL, and I'm sure you guys covered it, playoff season was one of the best in recent memory. I loved it. But I kept seeing this little Weddle dude flying around the field. And I was like, who is that guy? I was like, wait. I was like, my boys in ONN know that guy. Was he after it or what?
2 years retired, and he just comes
I was like, you told me he was retired. We were going to go play golf, all this crap. And then I was like, that's got to be the same Weddle, just because I know you two, and I was watching the way he plays, and I'm like, that's got to be the same Weddle.
It is. He came back for the playoff run. Obviously made a lot of plays. Obviously got his ring. Not many people can do that. You got to be a special individual. I mean, to come out, you know what I'm saying?
I mean, I was like, maybe I should go take a flight.
Oh gosh, yeah. With those all that artificial stuff, I don't know if that would work very well.
Yeah, they need to like have me like, I'd have to be like strapped by leather.
You'd have to, you'd have to get like around. You would. Oh man, bro. Hey, thanks for coming on and kind of confusing our brains a little bit more.
Well, I'll tell you what, seriously, if you guys want, let's check back in a couple of weeks.
No, I was just going to say the same thing. If you would, here in the next week or 2 or 3, we're going to have you back on, and we're going to talk about what the heck's going on at that point, because I'm sure it's going to be something. There's going to be something to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the Chinese will have landed in California by then, and
I might gosh.
When you ask me to be the president, I might just say, hell, we'll give it to him.
Oh my gosh. Slau would be okay with giving California away.
No, I appreciate it, fellas. Thanks.
All right.